Well, like Paul, are we willing to forego our rights regarding, for example, wearing a beard if exercising that right might even possibly stumble someone?
The governing body does not have an issue with brothers wearing beards.
Hey, everybody, it is Jake. Welcome to the show. On Friday, December 15th, 2023, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses announced a reversal on one of the group's stranger doctrines, no beards. Like other recent doctrinal shifts presented as new light, this change is actually a flip-flop. The group's founder, Charles Taze Russell, famously sported a long beard, as did other less-known figures to Jehovah's Witnesses.
For some years, based on the conclusions of certain archaeologists, our publications most often portrayed Jesus as clean-shaven. But in 1968, the Watchtower considered more reliable evidence. He wore a beard.
And the group's stance, I messed it up already. The group's stance on beards is so arbitrary and contrary to the group's own interpretation of the Bible that for decades, countless ex-members have cited the no beard doctrine as one of the first things about the cult that they begin to doubt. In fact, the reasoning Stephen Lett uses in this governing body update is at times nearly identical to the reasoning the most famous apostate website, JW Facts, used in its initial rebuttal to the doctrine back in 2013.
Starting in the 1960s, in many lands, beards became associated with those who were rebelling against established authority. Where that was the case, most men, both witnesses and non-witnesses, chose to shave. With the passing of time, in some lands, beards became more common and were not associated with rebellion.
At the time of writing this article in 2013, the global software company I work for has many professional employees with beards. Beards are not a sign of hippies and rebellion. They appear on royalty, politician, statesmen, international public icons, and captains of industry. Yet Jehovah's Witnesses are still expected to shave on the baseless grounds of it being a corporate standard and beards as being rebellious.
And while this change will likely be a welcome one among rank-and-file members, Stephen Lett was careful not to acknowledge that he and his fellow leaders were wrong, and really the important thing is trusting whatever the governing body says without question, no matter what.
If we've been promoting our own opinion on this subject, contradicting the guidance from the organization, have we been promoting unity? Have we helped the Brotherhood to be completely united in the same line of thought? Clearly not. Any who've done so need to adjust their thinking and attitude. On the other hand, if we've loyally supported the organization's direction over the years, do we have any scriptural reason to regret our course? Certainly not. Jehovah values our loyal service. He also appreciates our humble willingness to be obedient and submissive to the direction we receive from God's organization.
All of that and much nothing else all on today's Hey everybody, thank you for joining us live. I'm going to be joined by some ex-JW friends and colleagues, and we're going to talk about the beard thing. We're going to talk beards, our experiences, and go through this ridiculous broadcast and talk about our own experiences with this doctrine in the organization. So I'm going to introduce my special guests one by one here in order of left to right on my preview screen. First, you know him as one of the foremost scholars on getting disfellowshipped by the PID department. It's Mitch Ron Pomo.
Hey guys, good to be here, Jake.
Thank you for joining us. Now, our next person here is a little guy from the YouTube you might know as Riley, aka Jake's at 2020. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that.
Hey everyone.
Hey, and okay, actually, I'm going to pick one specific person last who they probably know who they're going to be. But next, another beard haver I must say, friend of the show, my little Pimo.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hey, thank you for joining us. We also have yet another bearded individual, Matt, the Falling Tower himself.
Hello, everybody. I am bearded, a little bit like Joe Dirt, but I'm here.
And last but certainly not least, somebody donning a beard with Christmas cheer. It's Apostate Barbie. It's Mickey.
Hello, ho, 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 ho.
Ho, ho, ho!
The grandest beard of us all.
Grandest beard. There was but one requirement today, and that is having a beard. And look at
Yarn
this.
or not. Yeah.
Yarn, cotton balls glued together, whatever. It's amazing. That looks like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen.
I actually stole it from Riley.
Riley,
And
explain
I
yourself.
can't
Why are you buying
remember.
uncomfortable beards for people?
It was actually a present from Larchwood.
Oh, wow. You know, this whole XJW community is such a clique. You know, people giving each other gifts and beards and stuff. No, so
we laugh
I
at
was
the Santa beard, but think about it. Give it like next Christmas. You actually might have someone out there who thinks that Santa is going preaching door to door.
That's such a good point. I mean, I think a lot of us understood as witnesses that the main reason we didn't wear beards is because Santa wore one, and he stole Jesus's birthday.
And now Santa can be a Jehovah's Witness, so
That's
who
true.
knows what's
Yeah,
next.
that was holding him back from progressing.
That was it.
It's been holding him back from privileges of service for a long time, but we will see. Okay, so I've got we've got quite a panel here, and I was thinking what we should do. Ron, I think, very accurately pointed out before we started recording that the actual broadcast itself is so full of like weird lies and manipulative talking points. It would probably be good for us to go through it. And maybe we have 6 people. If we have 4 people say stop, we'll pause and go through it or something. I don't know. Or if I just feel like it. But before we get into that, I want to throw this out to the table. We can go around. How did you feel about the beard doctrine when you were in? I'm going to choose Mickey first so that you feel permission to take that off sooner if it's bothering you. Because
I will
you
need to take
are
it off.
a woman,
Well,
former Jehovah's Witness. What was your thought as a woman in the organization on the beard thing?
I remember my ex-boyfriend, who was a Jehovah's Witness at the time. He went away and he came back with a beard. And I remember distinctly having a conversation with him and his parents about, like, this is like, we're in our 30s, having a conversation with his parents because his dad's an elder and his mum's an elder's wife. Very nosy. And it was like, you know, what do you think of the beard, Michelle? Because Michelle at the time. And I was like, well, I actually love it because it made him look great. But, you know, and I always think about this response. I was like, but, you know, if you want to have a part on the stage and like progress spiritually, I guess we all know what has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
No, I'm glad you brought that up. It was a thing that prevented people from being able to like give talks and be on stage.
Yeah.
But you could technically like be in a kingdom hall with a beard.
And like as a woman, I guess, as a woman Jehovah's Witness, it was like an easy identifier of like a dodgy guy or someone that wouldn't be a good spiritual head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good thing to bring up. Yeah, it was like this social thing of like, well, if somebody has a beard, they're bad association. Now it strikes me now, people watching this, they could look at this and think, wow, what a bunch of Jehovah's Witness looking people. I just wanted to plagiarize what XJW Caleb said because it's true. We just look like people now. Okay,
We were
Ron.
ahead of the chariot, though.
Which moves at the speed of thought. Ron Pimo, what was your experience with beards and other hair things? I'm not a good interviewer.
Well, I have a receding hairline, so I can't really control that. But I always wanted a beard, and I was a ministerial servant at like 18, 19, like just turned 19, I think. And I told the story the other day, but I'll be quick about it. I had a surgery and I had to be in recovery at home for like 4 weeks. Didn't go to meetings for about 4 weeks. And I let my beard grow. And I made an Instagram post in front of a mirror dressed up in a suit and tie. And I said, hey, what do you guys think about my beard? Like, do you have any problem if I showed up in service the next day? And that caused a storm on Instagram with our Kingdom Hall and friends, you know. And so I called my group overseer and I asked him, like, hey, what do you think? He's like, I'd be really uncomfortable if you showed up tomorrow. And so I said, fine, you know, I'll shave. But like, people never, ever let that post go, even though it was like 12 years ago.
Wow.
And so when Robert Hendricks, you know, called our elders and had them deal with me, the elder, who was like, I was my best friend for about 20 years, kind of a mentor, he brought up, you know, you've always had a problem posting things you shouldn't on social media. And it was about the beard post from 12 years before.
Wow.
Wow.
And, you know, I had grown a beard. I had grown a beard during the pandemic and all that stuff. So
now, how
anyway.
could that be if Jehovah puts off your sins as far from the east to the west? I don't understand this.
No keeping account of the injury and all that. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I've always been a strong proponent of it, but yeah, and then of course when I finally grew a beard in 2020, work from home, wear a mask outside, you know, no one could possibly be offended. And of course when I showed up on Zoom with a beard, the circuit overseer had to put a stop to that the next meeting. And so I just kind of like, okay, I'm done. That was kind of like the final straw for me.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yep.
Man, and if you'd only just hung on a little while longer, you could have just rocked that sweet beard at a Zoom meeting to your heart's content.
I'm thinking about going back now, though. So,
well, there you go. Riley, what about you? You are not in the States, but I believe it was the same, right? Same dealio.
It depends where you go. I mean, there were some places that were a bit more lenient than others. My congregation that I was in before I left, they were quite lenient with beards. I would grow a beard once a year and have it for about a month or two. And it caused little to no fuss whatsoever. In fact, in a neighboring congregation to me, there was a ministerial servant who would sometimes conduct the watchtower, and he had a full beard. So yeah, it depends where you are.
That's interesting. So it's one of those things where there was like different standards depending on different branch territories, and there was no unity.
Exactly.
Which is the number one problem of facing the world today, is the lack of unity around facial hair. Matt Falling Tower, you seem like you would have been pro beard, but followed the direction. That's my guess about you.
I had no problem with people having beards. But because of like, well, one, growing up, I never obviously even tried to have a beard because I joke about it all the time, but I do literally have like Joe Dirt style facial hair. So for me, I just kind of like put it out like, nah, I'm not gonna, it's not really that big of a deal to me personally. But I actually made a TikTok on this at some point in time. I had to actually do a research project on beards itself, because as an elder, I was like, what am I going to tell someone when they ask me like about, can I grow it? Can I not grow it? And I knew that biblically, the Bible says the exact opposite of like, you cannot shave your beard. And so like, I'm like, okay, I've got to grapple with this somehow and try to make it fit what, the organization wants us to say. And so that's a whole video of some of the cringe excuses that I would have used as an elder to do it. And we actually had an experience. I was starting to wake up at the time. We had one in our congregation, a guy who grew his beard, and we actually had to, like, two of the elders, one or two of them had to go in and kind of talk to him, because it was after the whole beard article. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, oh, this changes everything. And I'm like, it didn't change anything. Like, this says the exact same thing that they've said for years and years. But he read it, of course, and didn't realize that. So someone had to go give him counsel that if he wanted to be used for anything, had to come off. And so Like, and I lived in Alaska at the time, and so like up there, beards are extremely common. So it was just such an odd thing to like hear the excuses that, oh well, it needs to look okay in your community, kind of a thing. So basically, that's a long way of saying like I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I was a company man. I was like, well, I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. I'm just going to go along with it and see if Jehovah changes his mind later.
MLP, what about you?
Well, I have a few stories about beards, honestly, to share. I think one that really stands out is that we went to a wedding in Ireland, and we went with, there was a brother from our hall who was marrying a sister. Sorry, yeah, there was a sister from my hall who was marrying a brother in Ireland, and our travel group included a very young elder, and he was pretty pro beard. He would like argue to the other elders in favor of beards, and so when we got over there, we found out that the circuit overseer in Ireland had a beard because there was no prohibition on beards in Ireland, and that was a shock for me. We got there a little later, so we missed the we didn't get the chance to go to a meeting over there, but I saw some videos from some of the talks of the circuit overseer, like with a beard on the platform, and it, as a witness, it was super jarring for me. So
the idea that like seeing a person with a beard is surprising to a witness, just like a beard and a suit on a stage. What is this?
That combo just doesn't work. Like there's just a look, right? There's a look for what you think of as a good witness. And there's things that are kind of programmed into you to be warning signs. And when you see someone growing a beard, right, that's a warning sign. So we all grew beards while we were there, including the elder, and then we all shaved it off before our first meeting when we got back. So all of our pictures from that wedding had beards.
Oh, interesting.
And that was like way back. And it was like one of my first experiences kind of growing a beard. And then back home, we had this other issue that happened where there was this brother who he was dealing with some tragedy. And in his grieving process, he started growing a beard, and he even would sometimes like talk about like relating to those feelings of people in the Bible that were mad at Jehovah, right, for letting a tragedy happen to him. And like, he was really good at talking his way out of things or into things. He was a very, very boisterous personality. All the elders drank with him, and he had pretty much dirt on all of them. Like he could get away with murder. But he started growing a beard, and that just turned into a giant like controversy. And so some of the elders were like taking a side. Some of the elders were just like hardliners. One wanted to reprove him. They stripped him of everything they could, and he actually like fought back because they told him he couldn't go out in service with the beard, and he like showed them from the watchtower that like they can't restrict a baptized publisher from going out in service, even though they could take away his commenting privileges. So he lost most of his privileges in the hall. And they actually tried to go above and beyond, and he was able to like argue it down the maximum of the punishments. For people who don't know, maybe who aren't as familiar with this, like with Jehovah's Witnesses, there's all these soft privileges, and there's signals to people that you're in good standing. And so when people suddenly are not allowed to read from the platform or give comments anymore, you immediately think something's wrong, and maybe you should distance yourself from them, right? So they were doing everything they could to get people to distance from this guy because he made the grave sin of growing a beard and refused to shave it when counseled. And
disturbing.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, is that refusing to shave when counseled, right? When you listen to Stephen Lett's little talk there, he basically like praises people who followed the direction, and it's like kind of hinting, if you tried to grow a beard, even though there was nothing wrong with it, if you were trying to grow the beard when you knew the direction was not to, you're a bad boy.
Yes, that's a good way to launch into the actual thing here. So let me pull up our special video. Let's see if this works. Never tried to watch a video with this many people. Oh, look how it made us
Whoa.
all line up and small. Okay, so this video is hilarious because it starts with him being like, well, first we want to talk about some people who died in an earthquake or something. That's not really that important. Anyway, on to the main attraction, which is beards. And so let's try and get going here. If anybody wants to pause.
I got to say something about what you just said, because we joked about, oh, no one really cares about that. They made that 2 minutes long, and then this like 15 minutes about the beards.
Yeah.
There was a comment in a JW forum, like, brothers and sisters, we're getting lost in the weeds here. Our focus should be on the people who suffered the tragedy of the natural disasters. And I'm like, they put that in there for 2 minutes. This was the main focus.
Yeah. Almost like they were a little embarrassed that about the idea of having a full half hour only talking about beards.
Okay, I want to tell one more little bit about my story I didn't before, and it's like similar to this. Okay. When the elders contacted me after the circuit overseer told them to about my beard, my wife and I had gone through, I think it was our 4th miscarriage, like a few months before, and this was like the second shepherding call I'd ever received in my life, because my dad was an elder and then I was a servant. And the way the elders started out the conversation, how are you guys doing since your last miscarriage? Which the other elder had no idea about that. And so now about your beard.
Wow. That
reminds me of this talk.
Yeah.
That reminds me. I wanted to shout out this comment from Dags. I'm so glad the governing body is focusing on important things like beards instead of CSA priorities and all that.
100%.
Yeah, I think this is a theme here. Something like the amount of hours you like, whether or not you report your hours, or whether or not you have to shave your beard.
I actually feel like it's a bit of a misdirection. Like it's a look over here so that you don't look over here. Yeah.
I totally agree. These are easy things to change that people have been complaining about for years, if not generations of witnesses. They're not changing the things that actually hurt people, just these kind of superficial things.
I think there's like an aspect of also like, they have this super powerful control mechanism over the people, right? Like that's above and beyond what normal religions have. And so when they use those powers they have over people to beat on them about like small insignificant things about beards, it makes it so obvious like this is a cult. And I think that a lot of people or I think by like lessening up on some of those absurd restrictions that are just there for control, it makes it a little easier, or makes it a little harder to like demonstrate just how ridiculous living as a witness is.
And I do feel like if I was Pimi right now and reacting to this, I'd be like, well, can I wear pants? Like I legit would be saying that.
Well, that's why I wanted
really
to. That's why I was excited that you wanted to be on, Mickey, because you released some good TikToks about this. That this, for some reason, does not cut both ways. They're changing this thing about beards, but all of the dress and grooming stuff for women remains the same.
Yep.
That's cool. Actually, he talks about that close to the beginning here, so maybe we can start playing. And then if anybody wants to stop it, just say stop or something. Make noises, throw something at your camera.
As a result of the
throw up.
one of our dear sisters died.
Oh.
And 10 brothers and sisters were injured. We continue to pray for those affected by the many disasters
Shake your head,
happening
Lett. Shake your head.
around the world.
Okay, if I had not done the thing I always do, which is wait until like an hour before I start the stream to pull clips, I want to make a supercut. I noticed while watching this, and I've noticed it before, but Stephen Lett does this thing where he talks up here and then goes down. And he does that so many times where he goes down low. So let's also try to keep track of that, I guess.
Vocal limbo.
And the wiggles.
And the wiggles.
We thank all of you for your support and prayers. Some of you are working hard with disaster relief. And many more of you are making generous donations, which allow us to provide the necessities for our brothers and sisters and to rebuild their homes and kingdom halls.
Can we get a vibe check on why is Stephen Lett the guy to talk about these? Like, they always have him be a guy to talk about controversial issues.
I got an opinion on that.
Okay.
We've made it like a whole 8 seconds into the video, so I want to congratulate you on that before pausing. This
is a new record.
It's a new record.
But last assembly that I ever attended, Stephen Lett was the speaker here in Washington, and he gave a talk, and he was talking about conscience matters, and he was talking about women wearing makeup and beards, and he used the example of in the Watchtower from like the 70s or 80s, where they counseled congregations for keeping white shirts in their kingdom hall for brothers to change into if they ever showed up in a colored shirt to give a talk. And so it was a very, very, honestly, I got to give him credit, it was a balanced talk about this should be a conscience matter that we shouldn't be stumbled over and shouldn't have strong opinions on. So I just think it's interesting that a lot of people have also been commenting about his shirt color in this broadcast.
Ah, yes.
And I think this is probably something that he's wanted to change for a while, if I had to guess. So
also,
yeah,
with the makeup, he's probably wearing a ton of makeup too.
Oh yeah,
probably.
Oh yeah.
You can see, especially like in the conventions where they're like really close on their face, if they've got makeup on, it's not doing that much for him. But hey, I get it. I usually put makeup on before I stream. I just forgot.
We're so grateful for your help. On behalf of the governing body, we say thank you.
Okay.
But now, for the rest of our update, let's discuss the theme, we recommend ourselves as God's ministers. This is based on 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4, where the apostle...
The phrase "we recommend ourselves" is just very funny, by the way. I like, who should we recommend as a minister? Picking this guy right here. Think I recommend me? Myself? I don't know. This is like, it's very JW languagey.
Yeah. Well, they've recommended themselves as the faithful and discreet slaves. So why?
Yes.
Yeah.
They recommend.
What if I came along and recommended myself as a ministerial servant?
Yeah. That's a good defense for like women in the organization. Like, yeah, no, I recommend myself as an elder. That's
as per the governing body. I recommend myself. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Apostle Paul said, in every way, we recommend ourselves as God's ministers. What does that mean?
Golly.
The study note in this verse says, the Greek verb rendered we recommend ourselves conveys the idea we prove or show ourselves to be. But how do we show ourselves to be ministers of the true God? One important way is by our appearance. We all want to reflect well on the God we love and worship. How do we do that? By following Bible principles. For example,
does he have an X on the spot on his Bible where he has to place his fingers? Like here.
Yeah, like on a stage, like in a stage play.
Yeah.
They put like marks on the stage. Yeah. I'm gonna put my little hands right here.
I just see him and I can't help but think about that thing of only people with like the raised eyebrows. It's usually like psychopaths that like are like this all the time, and you know,
It's
just
actually
seeing him do that. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so nuts. How did I not see this when I was in?
Like Applewhite. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. When you look at him and Applewhite side by side, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's really scary to see them so similar.
And yeah, I do think they're separated at birth. Their mannerisms are so similar. It's weird. But neither had beards. You have to admit.
It's true.
And we have to admit that it's cowardly that he didn't come out here with a beard.
Right. Right. Show some spine.
Yeah. Commit.
Actually, that should be who is going to be our guess of any of the who's going to be the first of the GB or helpers to come out with the beard. Will any of the GB actually do it?
I can show you something right now.
I've seen some generated photos.
I started a poll 2 hours ago with 152 votes. Fleagle's run away with it. I only listed like the newer people because there's limited options on YouTube polls. I don't know. What do you think about this?
I think Sam Hurd will have a soul patch, but
I think Tony Morris already has a beard and we just can't see it.
You kidding? He was holding us back.
His luscious locks all swept across. Like he could be sporting a George Clooney style beard.
I forget which Twitter handle had it, but someone had done a face swap style thing with each of the governing body members with beards. And, and I forget who it was, but they look pretty good. And the one with Loesch was like, it just fit right with the flowing hair and just kind of came on down.
Well, there you go. I think I picked Fleagle because I can see it. I think it would look good on his face. But that's just my guess. I don't know.
I would also theorize as well that all these changes have happened after Tony Morris left.
Yeah, and how have we not mentioned
absolutely
that?
Is part of it like that he was just so old school and they were like, no, we have to move along. And he's like,
yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory about that.
Oh no.
I just it feels
sorry.
Too soon.
I forgot that we're streaming this. I'm sorry.
So it's just the fact that they added 2 governing body members and then removed Tony has it made me always think for a while, like since it happened so close back to back, that it was a political thing in that like you need certain numbers to vote off a governing body member. Like we know from Crisis of Conscience that they are very they have strict rules that they follow with vote numbers and things like that. And I don't want to run too far down this rabbit hole because I could be totally wrong. It just the timing of adding 2 new members and then removing Tony makes me think that there was like a shift in the politics of it and Tony was in the way.
It feels like a corporate reshuffle.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think that's really that big a conspiracy anymore. I think that's probably the most likely thing that's happened.
Yeah.
I agree.
And not just beards, but obviously they're making lots of rapid changes.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's a lot of facets involved and yeah.
And I think, ironically, the things that they're changing are things that have been pointed out by former members for a long time.
I think they're pointed out by members.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
By members,
can't say that you're right.
That's a good point. I don't want to feel vindicated or anything, but also just to preempt that, of course they should feel vindicated. They were right the whole time. Apparently they were right.
Damn
and
right.
The Bible isn't any different than it used to be.
Which he makes a point of being like, if you were right, you weren't.
Yeah, you were not correct. You were
in the end of this video.
Well, okay, let's get there.
Recorded at
Actually, let's just go ahead and hang on, Mick. You were talking about he's talking about women should adorn themselves in appropriate dress with modesty and soundness of mind. We don't need
I'm telling you, you know what I think is coming next? I think it's going to be women running mics. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that they're just losing too many numbers, and there's already halls that are mostly elderly people and women, and I feel like logistically, I think logistically they're going to have to start allowing that more.
Yeah,
it's already happening from what I've heard. There are already a lot of congregations where sisters are doing the mics.
I'll throw that in there.
Yeah, I know.
I've been in congregations that had sisters doing. Before I moved in, they were doing accounts, they were doing microphones, all that kind of stuff.
It's always they're the second string. Women are well, if there's no men available, technically it's possible to use a woman.
The assistant to the ministerial servant.
Yes, assistant to the ministerial servant.
When I had an attitude problem about my beard and I stopped helping out or anything, they asked my wife to start doing talk scheduling.
Well, she didn't have a beard. Christina popped in. She's sleepy and shy apparently, but she said if beards are a conscious matter, why aren't the length of a person's skirt
exactly
a conscious matter? Yeah,
on the same page. I feel like we also need a Venn diagram by the end of this of unscriptural teachings, things that they still teach, and then the overlap of things that they're slowly phasing out.
Ooh. That's
Well,
a
you know
good thought.
what was a conscience matter was beard fractions, right? Like
Beard
you could
fractions.
have a mustache.
The mustache.
Could you have a 5 o'clock shadow?
Man, there were people who got like people who had to come straight to the meeting after work, and they had a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow, and the brothers in my hall be like, "No, they can't give a talk looking like that."
And
it
it
was
was all the time.
Well, I know that you're
I've
probably
gotten
going
talked to before.
I know you're probably going to get into this like in a little bit, but like this entire scenario, while I see they've done it to try to solve a few problems, they've actually created way more problems because of now having the deciding factor of who gets to decide what is well groomed and what isn't. Can someone have just stubble? Can they do a beard stash? Can they do the Ken Ham style beard? Like, how long is a long? Like, this is such a problem.
Russell.
It's going to be like infinitely worse than are your sideburns too long?
Like
kind
those
of a
creepy,
situation.
unkempt trucker beards. Like, I don't think I can't see that happening.
Yeah, I can picture some old elders just like trying to refuse appointments to anyone who has a beard just because they think that they're pushing a boundary.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is why I would be extremely surprised if any of the governing body members grew a beard, because I don't actually believe that they think it's okay now. I think they're just making a concession because the religion is struggling. People are leaving in droves, and this is just a small concession they can make to try and, you know, stem the outward flow of membership. But they actually still think that it's a wrong thing to do. They're just capitulating, for want of a better word.
I feel like until we see it in the literature, in the videos, because they always would use those to be like, well, this is the standard of what a Jehovah's Witness looks like. You don't see it in the literature, so maybe it's best not to, even though the governing body said so.
Yeah,
maybe it's
one of the last elders meetings, or the last time a CEO came through, when I was still in, we had a whole discussion on beards and all this, and that's actually what the CEO said was, when the governing body finally approves it for the U.S. branch, he's like, likely what they are going to do is they are going to tell some of us as CEOs, you need to go ahead. Like if they feel like doing it, they're like, we would like you to go ahead and grow a beard because we need some of you to start getting the ball rolling to show that it's okay. So that 100% is going to be how it's going to get rolled out. Is, you know, some special full-time servants allowed to do it, some Bethelites, probably some governing body helpers, and then, you know, with the course of time, you know, it'll change, and then, you know, it'll get within 20 years, it'll turn into the next thing of like, oh, it was never a rule. That was just people taking it too far. It was never a thing. And, you know, it'll turn into the next 1975.
People are commenting that way right now in these JW groups. That wasn't really a rule. Like, oh, come on.
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, I got it all the time on my TikTok that when I mentioned that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to grow beards, like there were so many people that were like, well, my uncle has one and my dad had one and he was an elder. And it was like, okay, but where were you? And it was somewhere that it was like, you know, you could justify it with the culturally appropriate excuse that they gave at the time with the magazines, because it wasn't like a thing. Like I was always trying to reference back to the lists that I had were from their teachings, not from what it was like in your local congregation, but from what they taught in their literature.
Yeah.
But,
anybody who is being honest knows that there is absolutely little rules in culture, and not little rules, depending on your area. It was a huge issue.
Yeah.
There's this kind of this thing that goes into witness logic that's like, there's things that aren't a hard rule, but if you violate them, then you're showing that you're not listening, that you're not following direction. And so there's a bunch of soft punishments for it, and they can kind of pretend it's not a hard rule. Like there's technically you don't have to shun a direct family member, according to the Elders book, right? But if you don't do it, then you're showing that you're not a good witness, that you don't observe the principle, and then you still have negative side effects from it.
Yeah. Yep. It's like one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but they would just say, well, it's not a big deal to shave your beard. It's a small thing to forgo having a beard. So why wouldn't you just shave it? Anyway, let's play 5 more seconds. That's what we do every Sunday, 5 seconds at a time.
It is directed
That's what
to
she said.
Christian women, the principle applies equally to men and women. So one way all of us can recommend ourselves as God's ministers is by making sure that our appearance is appropriate and modest, reflecting soundness of mind. But does that mean that all of Jehovah's Witnesses make the same choices? Should we wear a uniform or adopt a single form of appropriate dress and grooming? Of course not.
What?
There are well
What is
over
this
8
weird little
million
hand
of
thing he's doing?
Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide.
Gotta show the
And
jewelry.
we have a
He is kind of like, hey.
Okay, but look, like also just going back to what he said about like we wouldn't adopt like a uniform way of what Jehovah's Witnesses look like. They've always said that you should be able to recognize witnesses on the street by their dress and grooming.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And everybody knows, like, there is absolutely a Jehovah's Witness uniform. It's in all of their paradise images. What's the proper dress and grooming for perfect humans? It's khakis and a button-down shirt and brown shoes and
America.
no beard. God damn it. Liars.
a wide range of cultures.
He almost exploded.
Jehovah has drawn these millions of people, and he loves variety.
Oh,
Hit it. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, new drinking game. Whenever he touches the Bible, you have to drink.
Oh God, that's like 8 shots every minute. He's touching
Now
it so
we
much.
ask,
Wait, those of you playing
what
at home.
about the wearing of a beard? Is that an appropriate choice for a brother to make? To help us answer that question, let's watch the following video, which reviews the history of beards among Jehovah's people.
That's when I just started laughing when I was watching this.
Yeah. Friday morning, I have not laughed so hard in so long, like for hours.
There's just, it all really hit me, the absurdity of it. Like, are beards okay? Let's watch a video on the history of beards.
I actually thought this was a joke. I woke up, saw a post on Reddit within
I
like
did too.
within like 10 minutes, and I was like, this has to be a joke. And I went and looked at the video, and I was like, oh my goodness, they actually did it.
We always had beards. What are you guys talking about?
Yes.
Like,
Apostates
our
are
group
making
chat-
stuff up.
Our group chat
Exactly.
was just going crazy, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I need to take a break" because I was at work.
Yeah.
Went upstairs,
That was my
put the
issue.
Screen recorded, and that was my TikTok.
All right, let's go through this.
This
let
is
me know
the
if you want to pause.
official history.
The official history that they are. I don't know. I have some issues, some fact checks I might want to do.
There's a
Although,
big
I will
figure
say
absent.
I'll say this too. I felt a little bit prophetic. I found I was making this just kind of like jw.org out of context video of just like funny random moments I found. And I just found this really weird video that was just a guy in a drama like clipping off little pieces of his beard. And I was like, what the hell is this? When would they ever show this video? And they showed it like 2 days later in this.
Oh wow!
Oh, weird.
So I'm a prophet, Stephen Lett.
Patriarchal
I'm the
times,
one.
it was customary for men to wear beards. This practice continued
skirts.
among the Israelites.
And
An
skirts.
Israelite man would shave only when he was humiliated or grieving.
They're humiliated with those
For
fake
example.
beards.
And they couldn't put on a little foundation for those poor guys. I feel like they wasted all their makeup budget on spirit gum and beards. But
When the king of Ammon humiliated David's servants by shaving their beards, David protected their dignity by telling them, "Stay in Jericho until your beards grow back, and then return." Centuries later, the prophet Ezekiel shaved his beard
There's my
and his
boy.
head to symbolize the great distress and grief that would soon afflict Jerusalem.
see burning
What
tufts of
about
hair.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Did he too, as an Israelite, wear a beard? For some years, based on the conclusions of certain archaeologists, Our
Oh,
publications
brother,
most
I
often
I didn't catch that part before.
Yes,
Certain archaeologists.
this is
Amazing.
interesting. I think that they are lying, but I looked at the quotes that he was talking about, like from these magazines, because in the JW Facts article, to me, this is. Remember when I said I was going to let you guys lead the discussion? I'm sorry. To me, this is the thing that I think they are most interested in doing damage control on. The biggest betrayal I felt when I read this JW Facts article when I was waking up wasn't even just like, oh yeah, it was all bullshit, but knowing that they've covered over this embarrassing part of their history where they were so against beards that they depicted Jesus without a beard. I was so shocked by that. I think they're trying to get ahead of people finding that out from apostate sources.
Yeah.
What strikes me about this picture is the resemblance between Jesus and Joseph Smith
Yeah.
from the
Immediately.
Mormons. It looks
That's a
exactly the
great
same.
call. Yep.
I was like, is that Mormon Jesus?
It's very Mormon-y. I want to see what these archaeologists they were paying attention to. It might have been like Mormon apologetic sources, you know. Very weird. But I think that they want to avoid people finding this stuff out from, you know, quote unquote apostate websites. Like, well, let's just get this out of the way. Now let's rip this Band-Aid off.
Jesus as
We used to do this.
clean-shaven. But in 1968, the Watchtower considered more reliable evidence from both historical sources and the scriptures. None of the four Gospels indicate that Jesus' appearance stood out as different. He did what was customary among Jewish men at that time.
Duh.
He wore a beard. Our videos and artwork in our publications ever since have consistently portrayed Jesus with a well-groomed beard.
Well-groomed.
By the time the Christian congregation...
Jesus, a famously homeless guy who just bounced around from like a hillside to somebody's basement to somebody's house, surely was foremost concerned with dress and grooming.
So what they just said there, sorry, Mickey, what they just said there, Jesus, they always show Jesus with a well-groomed beard. In my opinion, if a guy showed up with a beard modeled on Jesus or the other illustrations, that would be considered not well-groomed by today's standards.
Like too big.
Yeah, too big.
And I feel like
Too
that they're
long.
going to use that as a form of policing within it now to be like, your beard is not well groomed. Even though you're allowed a beard, it needs to be well groomed. Also, did Jesus have hairy feet? Like, I feel like I'm wondering that now.
That's why he's obsessed with having his feet washed and all that.
Yeah.
You gotta check his OnlyFans for that stuff.
That's why he wanted oil poured on his head. It just smelled so bad.
established, the Romans had adopted the practice of shaving. Were Jewish Christians then expected to shave, or were Gentile Christians expected to grow beards in order to...
Are they trying to also, with this picture, so I'm just thinking of this in real time, like they're trying to make it seem like, see, this is how they got their announcements too. The elders would read a letter.
It's so backwards.
Yeah.
Manipulative.
Because we'll see.
blend in with their Jewish brothers? Evidently not, since the scriptures neither command true worshipers to grow a beard.
Because he's reading a letter
command
from the
them to
governing
shave.
body right there.
This
That's right.
was a matter of personal decision. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, beards were common even among the Bible students, as seen in these photos of Pilgrim brothers who traveled for the organization.
Until Rutherford
Brother
changed
Russell,
it.
too, wore a beard.
Yep.
One newspaper editor called him a well-groomed minister. He said, "It had never occurred to me he was any different from thousands of other preachers. His soft, white flowing beard is the
Oh my
beard
God.
of a patriarch, a father. It gives you confidence."
Wow.
Also, I want to kiss him on the mouth.
Yeah. Was that a love letter?
It reminds me of when they just talk about how handsome and hot King David would have been. Like, this guy, I mean, I'm telling you, he would have been the sexiest man alive. And Jesus, too. They always talk about, like, he was a perfect man. So you know what that means.
7-pack abs.
That's right.
I like how
after World
Jehovah's
War
Witness
I,
Jesus is like
shaving
brunette,
enjoyed
but
a
Mormon Jesus
resurgence
is
in
blonde.
popularity.
But they're both
Yeah,
white.
that's right.
In 1919,
Yeah.
when this photo of the Pilgrims was taken, most did not have a
They say most did not have a beard. The guy front row center did. I mean, this guy has a big fucking mustache. This guy in the back has a beard. There's beards. In this
Honestly,
picture.
I really want to see Poirot mustaches. Like, I just want to see that.
The one guy kind of has one.
Yeah,
There's a bit
but
of
so this is the only image of the person who is responsible for the beard prohibition. So
Yeah,
but they don't mention him.
They're like, but we showed him.
beard.
We were lying.
Therefore, although our publications said little about the subject at the time, very few brothers grew beards. Starting in the 1960s,
The passive language that they use. Did you notice that? How they're like, most just did not wear a beard.
Yeah,
That's
even
it.
though our publications never said anything about it, most didn't wear one.
They just didn't
gloss
wear one.
right over where it came from.
Yeah,
Exactly.
lying shit.
in many lands, beards became associated with those who were rebelling against established authority.
And
Where
this
that
is
was
what
the
everyone
case,
was referenced.
Most men, both
Yes.
witnesses and non-witnesses,
When you bring it up,
chose
is
to
the hippies.
shave.
Chose to
because of the
shave.
negative-
Most witnesses chose to shave. So this is the language they use for shunning too. Like it's just a lot of people choose to do that.
Personal decisions, yeah.
And then like,
Yeah.
because they always talk about, oh my god, my thought just fell out of my head as soon as I started speaking.
You
Sorry.
lost your comment.
Bye.
That's what
We'll come
happens
back
when
to
you
you.
have that smaller cranium. You
Oh wait,
know?
it came back. How they would always talk about we don't follow the trends of the world. Like,
Oh,
is this
Yeah.
not what they're highlighting that they did do?
Yeah, it's very
That
weird.
They are
They're-
doing now.
Yeah, it's like, well, once it's trendy enough in the world, you can do it. But also, we don't follow trends.
But also no ripped jeans, according to last year's convention. So
Oh, that's right. That's still bad.
you know,
Well, that means you were on your knees doing something. I learned. Somebody commented that. Like, I didn't understand the ripped jeans thing. And it's like, well, there was this old myth that it meant that someone was on their knees, if you know what I mean. Like, that's why the jeans were ripped. I don't agree that that was the
What?
reason why.
I've never heard that one.
I don't agree.
Me neither.
Yep. I think that random YouTube commenter might not have been telling the truth.
Connotations associated with wearing a beard, most brothers who wore a beard did not
That looks
serve
like
as
Matt.
ministerial servants.
I was going to say the same thing.
Or in other appointed
I
positions.
missed it.
With the passing of time,
Now, this
and
is just
See, they
My
did
little
it
female.
again. They did it again. They said most brothers who wore beards didn't serve as ministerial servants
Yes.
or elders. It doesn't say that they were prohibited
No.
from serving as ministerial servants or elders. They made it sound like
Mhm.
they just chose not to be an elder because they wanted to have a beard.
Yeah.
it just so happens that they didn't
Yeah.
serve. Don't look into why. But I think this looks like you, my little female. I think this looks
I
like
was
I
thinking
can see that.
too.
I can, a little bit. I can see it. I can see it.
act like you're writing something real quick. That's him. Oh my god. he's in the video.
some lands, beards became more common and were not associated with rebellion. In those places, some brothers with beards
Okay, pause.
were appointed.
Yeah.
I saw this clip before and I couldn't figure out when he says some brothers with beards were appointed. Like, is there a brother with a beard in here?
I know. I was confused by this too.
Yeah.
He
He's
says it
taking a
like
photo.
he says it like, and now time for an example of beards in the congregation, but that they don't. None of these people have beards.
Yeah, I can't figure out like what this is for. And also, isn't this clip from the shunning video that that was
Oh,
deleted from the
right.
convention?
Yeah, the because it
Ooh.
has the guy with the creepy mustache in it.
We'll have to confirm
Yeah.
that. That'd be interesting.
Let's cross-reference this. Zoom in
as
enhanced.
ministerial servants and elders. In recent times,
I love this. This is my favorite part of the video where they're like bring shiny sound effect like, and this is what Jehovah's organization now looks like with beards. Like they're
Variety.
yes, like
And the
they're
goatee,
showing like
apparently. So
this is a witness with the beard, and this is a witness with the beard.
You got to wonder if this is stock footage or if they actually allowed these brothers to grow beards just for this.
Who
If
knows?
it is
They
stock
never-
footage, won't it show it at the end? Won't it have like a little?
Oh, you're probably
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
But
I
like
think
the doctor.
the fact that they're all non-white, like
Oh,
good
that's an
point.
interesting catch.
that's what I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
by variety.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing is that it was sort of this thing like, well, in white areas, you don't wear a beard. Although I don't know, like you were saying, like Appalachia, like Alaska, I don't know. I guess it's just completely.
Alaska's not real.
That's also I wondered about that. I've never been there.
The wearing of a beard has become common in many more lands. So, how should
I love
we
this
view
guy.
a brother who chooses to grow a beard today?
Okay. But see now it's the white guy. Like he's like,
See?
I can copy them.
But what about if you're a white guy who looks like the generic Jehovah's Witnesses we use in pictures? Can that kind of person grow a beard?
Well, and that thing was also literally like the start of a Gillette commercial.
Yeah, really.
And all of this is also really funny in the sense of when so I didn't start growing a beard until I was like 35. So as a grown adult, in order to do that, I had to physically Google and YouTube how do you take care of a beard. I'm like, I'm 35 years old and I
had to
have
do the
no
same
idea how to
thing.
do that. I'm like, so now I can imagine what local needs parts are they going to have now? And this is the type of beard oil that you need to have in the beard balm.
Whiteboard animation.
They're gonna have Jehovah's Witness beard oil. Someone is gonna have.
Oh, somebody somewhere is going to do it. Absolutely.
My wife asked last night if we should start like an
Why?
Etsy thing or something.
I had that was my
JW.org
favorite.
beard combs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
A Pimo I know
Copyright.
messaged me like the Etsy scene is about to explode. They can have
Yeah.
beard oils and razors and grooming products. Oh my god. Yep.
JW.oil.
This so this is where we get into the spin. I guess that was all spin, but now we get to hear Stephen Lett say it very slowly.
The video ended with an intriguing
It
question.
ended.
Did you say that, or
Did.
was that a glitch?
By the
Oh,
way,
nice right there.
we just hit 300 live viewers, which is very exciting. Make sure to like the stream if you're liking it, and if you don't, dislike it. I think that's how it works.
How should we view a brother who chooses to grow a beard today?
Today.
Today,
How should we do him today.
yesterday, the answer would have been different, but now we
Mm.
have flipped a switch and the doctrines have changed.
Share my Drake meme on Instagram. So.
You did have a good Drake meme on
He
Instagram.
has asked me to read the following announcement.
And see, this is
But that
The
was also
number
that
of
wording
branch-
where he was like, the governing body has asked me to read this, as if he is not part of the governing body himself.
Exactly.
this is
Like-
what I'm obsessed with these days. Is this weird, like the way they talk about themselves in the third person, like they're the Jimmy from Seinfeld.
Even we have to show different deference to ourselves.
Yes.
But it's like I feel like back in the day they would have been like, okay, well, Jehovah is, Jehovah would feel this way, or Jehovah would be hurt by this, or like, they'd bring Jehovah into it first and then be like, now we're gonna read you this.
Yeah. No, this really feels like a challenge. Like, yeah, we know this doesn't fucking make sense. It's a contradiction. And a lot of you were telling us to do this for a long time. But all those people were still wrong. And it was the people who didn't shave who were actually right, or did shave. I don't know what I'm saying. We'll watch
Nobody's
it.
right, man.
Offices around the world
Dust
have
in the
written
wind.
to us indicating that there continue to be questions about whether or not it is proper for a brother in an appointed position to wear a beard.
Well, okay. Sorry to pause it again, but jwfacts.com has a branch letter from like 2009 that's says all the same issues that people have had forever about this doctrine. But he's making it sound like they've just randomly got this influx of questions from branch territories across beards. But that's not the case. It's been this way for a long time.
After prayerful consideration, the governing body has concluded that there is a need to clarify this matter.
Also, I wonder how big his font
The
is.
governing body
How big what?
His the font on his phone that he's holding.
Well, they're like little cards, right?
Oh, it's not. It's card. I thought it was a phone.
Yeah, at some point, I think
Well,
he
the
like
font on the cards then.
gotcha. I
This
just heard
big.
how big his is, and I
That's
didn't.
what she said.
You know what they say about the size of a man's cards that he reads off of?
Does not have an issue with brothers wearing beards.
This is wild.
Why not?
What?
The governing body does not have an issue with beards. Present tense.
Not Jehovah. Not Jehovah, the governing body.
And the fact that he said, this is something we need to clarify because we've gotten all these questions. And we are saying that the governing body does not care. So it's they're kind of doing two things at once, which is they're acting like we never actually had an issue with this. But also, even if we did, it's now changing. You're just clarifying something we already always believed.
Because we were wrong, but we're not going to apologize.
No.
Yeah.
It was
if
always-
they said we no longer have an issue with beards, that would indicate that they did previously.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
So
part
it's
of
like
the
they're trying to make
gaslighting.
it out like there has never been an issue.
While simultaneously saying thank you for supporting the policy.
Yes. I don't remember if I pulled the clip or not, but I pulled the clip of him saying policy because that feels almost like an accident, you know?
Because the scriptures do not condemn the wearing of beards.
So they never did.
Furthermore, as time has passed,
Or they
we
added
have
to the
noted
Bible.
that in many lands, it is acceptable for men who hold responsible positions in business and government to wear beards. Thus, whether a brother wears a beard
Is he pointing at his
is
card?
a personal decision. A brother's qualifications to serve as an elder or ministerial servant are based on his spirituality, not on whether he chooses to wear a beard.
All right.
He's not doing really well in his eye contact. We had people that would give counsel, and I
Audience
hated it,
contact
about
and use of
your
notes.
readers. They were like counsel. I had brothers that would give counsel that the readers should be looking up like they're giving a talk as well. And I'm like, why? No one's watching them. And I'm like, okay, here you are, a governing body member, not doing it.
Right. I remember that too. Sometimes you would get like eye contact during a Bible reading and you'd be like, I guess I'll just look at people between verses.
Looking down, up, down, up, down, up.
Down, up, down, up, down, up. Yeah, this is very odd. There was a comment that I wanted to highlight that, like 1975 Deja Vu. I hate pulling up comments now because it hides Mickey and Matt's faces. But, like Mike Wazowski. But this is kind of like that in terms of like they are in real time saying like we were wrong, but also we weren't, and it's kind of your fault. And the important thing is that you listened.
And like they've always said as well that they don't add to the scriptures, right? They don't add to the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's not scriptural, then where, like why, where, how, who, when, why?
Exactly.
And what else?
And JWs will be the first to tell you that they don't follow men, but at the same time, they obey the men who are taking the lead. But
Yes.
they're not following men.
Every single time.
After I'd woken up, I remember being in a conversation with someone who a preemie witness was speaking to someone who was not a witness, and they literally told them that, we don't make up just rules for people to follow. That's not what we do. And I remember sitting there like, what are you talking about? And the beards being one of the first one that kind of flooded through my mind. I'm like, it is crazy. The mental hoops that a witness will jump through to try to claim that they just don't have rules that they want to make you follow. It will be interesting in the coming years to see how this gets justified and changed around.
I think that's the question that I have, like thinking about crisis of conscience when like so much of that book is him detailing like, okay, so we would change a thing arbitrarily, and that would lead to a bunch of people sending in letters like, what does this mean about this? What about this? And so they have to pass new laws. They have to pass more specific things. Like, it raises all of these questions. And on some level, they have to be aware of that. But I don't know. They're just taking their licks, I guess.
I want to read you a quick comment from that JW Talk app or forum.
Yes. A forum for Jehovah's Witnesses where you have to be like verified.
They're going wild. I mean, they banned discussions of beards years ago on that forum because it would cause so many fights among the members. But here's a comment from one of like the head honchos of that forum. 2023, Jehovah. Brothers can grow beards. It's a personal choice. Some brothers. But I thought we couldn't grow a beard. Jehovah, I didn't tell you that. So like, wait, it's Jehovah's voice now, but it wasn't Jehovah's voice before?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Exactly. And they aren't, they're writing this, but not seeing it.
And I mean, I've always said, like, what about like the anointed that passed away that made the rules before that have changed, like with every new light? Are they sitting up there going like, oh, I still believed, like, I believed it that way, like, Jehovah, what happened? Like, are they, like, what's going on? Like,
where is Jehovah in all this? What does this say about Holy Spirit and, like, following direction? If you knew a thing was wrong for a long time, and then they acknowledged that it was wrong, but also insinuate that you were the problem for insisting that they change it.
Yeah,
kind of going along with what Ron had said about the viewpoints of witnesses with this. What I noticed is really interesting about this entire thing is, after the annual meeting stuff, it seemed like it was taking several weeks for news to spread about like the new light with Armageddon and all that kind of stuff. This stuff with the beards within hours was getting broadcast across the country. Like, I have people I know that like they woke up first in the morning and were sending messages to all of their family members and friends. I have a lot of contacts with elders, people who are like just fated as elders, some who are currently serving as elders. Messages were going out like crazy. Some of them even trying to be like, hey, see, we know you had a problem with beard, not necessarily trying to get them to come back, but kind of show them how reasonable the organization is now. But it is crazy to see like how high level this is compared to like a new light teaching, as far as like, oh, we're now giving you permission to do something that you should have never needed permission from us to do to begin with.
Yep.
Yeah.
It feels like a bigger wave than no longer reporting hours, even, like, which was huge.
Yeah, that was almost like, I think for most people, that was so unexpected. It's like, whoa, okay, wow. But this beard thing has just been this simmering conversation for all Jehovah's Witnesses for such a long time. Like, everybody has asked a question about this at some point. I mean, if you're a gentleman who can grow a beard in the organization, and like, you think about this every meeting night when you have to shave, like, you're like, why can't I grow a freaking beard? Why do I have to shave? So it's just like, I don't know. I wanted to respond to a comment real quick, which is I definitely do not think that this is the case, that they will get rid of things like shunning and blood doctrine. I mean, I think the reason why they're getting rid of things like counting time in the beard thing is that it doesn't really change any of their essential doctrines, and they can't get sued.
I think this will get modified in the coming like decade or two, but that's a whole other video and discussion.
Yeah. I agree. I think they're intentionally trying to change some easy things that they've gotten a lot of criticism about, but that won't open them up to legal issues or anything like that.
I feel like if they had a button they could press to go back in time and get rid of the blood doctrine, they would. But they can't. I think it's just too much of an admission of mistake, and they can't do that.
I agree completely.
They do have a couple more scriptures to point to for the blood thing, even though it's clearly incorrect. But
that's two more scriptures in the beard thing that they had. Yeah, nobody died as a result of the beard doctrine. Nobody's going to be like, hey, I let my kid die because he needed to grow a beard, and I wouldn't let him.
My mom
I tried
died
that.
because she couldn't grow a beard.
My mom desperately needed a beard more than anything. Ridiculous. Okay, let's hear him read his cards. His
This
legal
direction
statements.
also applies to special full-time servants at Bethel and those in the field, including special pioneers, missionaries, and circuit overseers. In harmony with Romans 14:4, neither the elders nor any other Christian should feel compelled to judge a brother who chooses to wear a beard. We trust that these comments will help us to remain on guard against anything that might cause division among Jehovah's people. End of the announcement from the governing body.
I like that part the most.
Roger that.
End quote.
And the announcement from the governing body. Yeah, I mean, he says that we shouldn't judge people. That's tough to say since the entire, the last, let's just call it 100 years, have been judging people who have beards. It's just been instilled from the pictures in their magazines, to their videos, to announcements, to who's allowed to give talks. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen overnight. What are some? I have a question for Matt. What are some issues? Because you used to be an elder. What are the questions that are going to be coming up because of this? Like, what are the little wrinkles that you might have to write the branch about or call someone about?
I mean, who gets to decide what is well groomed? So,
yeah.
Are there length requirements now? Like, what's too long? What isn't? What about beard styles as far as full beard, beard stash, goatee, Flava Sava? all of those things now become like a massive problem. So I feel bad for whoever is going to be the one receiving all these letters, because it's going to happen constantly.
It's not going to make things easier. No,
yeah, definitely not. So I mean, they have like at least a good year or two more problems. We're probably going to see another clarification in video form like this, or at least in elder/local needs talks of where they're going to have to continually address it again.
Young people ask video about how to care for beards.
Young people shave. Yeah, by the way, yes, this is GB Update 8. I don't think I said that earlier, so that's a good call. That is what this is, chat, if you're wondering. All right, are we good to move on?
Yeah, we're getting to the culty part right now.
Yeah. Good culty business.
This direction, however, may raise some questions. For example, here's one. Why is the governing body providing this direction at this time? Well, as recorded at 1 Corinthians 7:31, the Apostle Paul was inspired to write, "The scene of this world is changing." The study note in that verse shows that Paul may have been alluding to the way that scenes change swiftly in a theater, with actors passing quickly on.
I think it makes a lot of sense that they were referring to theater in the Bible.
Oh, I don't know. I think that they were talking about big blockbuster movies. Obviously.
Yeah, they were talking about the post-credits scene of This World Is Ending.
Or, they could have been really thinking about the emo scene.
Oh, yeah, like a pop punk scene. I agree. Oh, I forgot to shout out a super chat we got, by the way, which is, so they're not supposed to be of the world, but they guide themselves by the world's view of beards, which is such a good question. I saw Barb T left a similar comment earlier. Why are they looking to the world as to what is acceptable?
What I'm saying.
It's the whole issue with this. Like, it just never made any sense.
I always thought, because I used to work for Witnesses, and there was a time that I wore ripped jeans because I worked for a carpet cleaning company in their factory, at reception, and it was cold, but so I would wear a hoodie and jeans. Like, I was like, meh. And I was told by them that I can't wear those jeans because it's reflecting the standards of the world, and as witnesses, we shouldn't be. And I was thinking, because I was being told this by an older sister who was wearing something from the 80s, and I remember thinking, like, well, you're wearing something that was a style of the world, like,
Yeah.
what do you? What?
And it's false advertising with those big broad shoulders.
Yeah. I gotta wonder how much workshopping they had to do behind closed doors about how they were going to roll this back and like what reasonings they were going to use, because obviously they're not telling the truth about where this came about and how it never should have been a rule in the first place. So yeah, it's pretty interesting that this is where they landed.
Yes, I'll make sure I update the description with a link to that JW Facts article. But if people aren't aware, and you can read this, I think it's like in the 1974 yearbook or something, which is still on Watchtower Online Library. Like, the reason why they started to do away with it is people were growing beards to emulate C.T. Russell. Rutherford didn't like that, was worried about creature worship, was worried about people, liking Russell more than him, I guess. And so that was the real motivation of the change, I think, right?
Yeah, to the degree that they were going to withhold a printing press in a Bethel branch until someone there shaved their beard.
Yes, and that is like in the yearbook as like this cute, funny story of like, I'll do it on one condition: shave that beard.
Yeah.
This looks like on the dance floor, he's doing one of these. The pause face. He looks like he's doing like a spank.
Well, another thing that's about to get interesting to me with this, what's following here is I know someone who about a month ago had this conversation with elders about growing a beard. And so now this little flip-flop of like what they told them that they were not allowed to do, and the reasons for it and the spiritual ramifications that came from it. I'm like, this is going to be really interesting next week when they have to talk. And I already know they're planning to use the excuses that he's using here to ignore it. It doesn't matter if you were right. We want to see that your obedience is how we're going to rate your spirituality moving forward. And I'm just like, oh man, it's how funny it is for these elders to go so hard in one direction. Yeah. And then just like a couple weeks later, they're having to do a complete 180.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
a small paintbrush thing.
I still think
that's
that
what
they
makes
will be judging
Sorry, bro.
people. I think they will still be like mentally holding in their mind, oh, that person grew a beard before it was appropriate.
Yeah.
So we're still going to judge them.
Absolutely. And going back to what Matt was saying, I think that's one of the indicators that it is a cult, because it's all based on what the leaders say and obedience to them. Regardless of what makes sense, regardless of what the Bible says or not, it's all of obedience to the leaders is that trumps everything. You don't get more culty than that.
Yep. That's what his ultimate point is going to be, that the important thing is that you obeyed a thing that was wrong and you didn't understand, even though it was stupid, and we're changing it now.
Has he said anything about Jehovah yet?
Nope.
Not a lot.
Nope.
Precious little Jehovah so far.
And off the stage. In keeping with the principle
320
of Paul's
people, let's
inspired
go.
statement, grooming styles have changed over the years. For example, more and more beards are worn by men in responsible positions who project a respectable appearance. Here's another question. How should we view a brother who decides to grow a beard? Well, we should apply Jesus.
That's the same question. What? That's not a new question. That's the only question that he's been doing the whole time. I don't understand this. The whole setup to the video was, well, what if someone wants to grow a beard? Let's watch the video. And then it ended with that question. And then he's like, okay, so let's talk about that question. And now he's saying, here's a new question. It's the same question. I feel like I'm going fucking crazy.
Their hands have to be held each baby step, you know.
Oh, well, somebody also mentioned that there might have even been somebody in chat saying they were just counseled like yesterday. I am wondering, like, statistically, let's think about there's 8.5 million witnesses worldwide. There's a high likelihood that on Thursday somebody got the shave your beard counsel, and then on Friday they woke up and the governing body update was they're fine now. Those
I would really
are
like to. I kind of joked around with some of the other elders that I know. I was like, I almost would like to go back to being Pimo for like a week or two, just to go back into the Kingdom Hall and see how many brothers have stubble and are growing things back out. Like, obviously, that's still not enough to get me to actually do that, but still, it would be really interesting to see how many brothers are trying this and how many are at a point where maybe they just don't grow it well enough, and it's just like they look like an ancient sage, and it's just kind of a few wisps here and there that you're you just need to shave that anyway, man.
So I was thinking, like, since I've moved to a whole new country and I'm in a whole new city and nobody knows me here, I could just go to the meeting every now and then.
Hey.
And I could check something out, but I just don't know if I could stay for 2 hours of my life when I'm so busy on the weekends doing normal things.
That makes me sad to even think about.
I'm like,
a meeting.
I just wonder how long until I can walk into a Kingdom Hall with a suit and not be like seen as an outsider for having a beard, right?
would I be able to walk in there with a suit though? Still no.
No.
Yeah, that's true. That would be the cause for stumbling in your case, is a woman wearing a suit.
I'll bring my Santa beard and I'll say, look, I've got a beard though. It's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I do think sisters wearing trousers or pants to my US cousins.
Thank you.
Do see that as being a possibility now after this.
The principles apply if they actually followed the principles.
Yep.
Exactly.
But we know that
and I do think that this is this is
a
a series of changes in order to make it easier to stay in the religion.
Yeah.
I don't think this will be the last thing to change.
I think you're dead on. It's trying to make it easy for people to stay. It's not necessarily trying to appeal to people in the ministry. It's like, you thought that was a reason to leave? Nope.
Then so you know how this came about because they got so many letters and such.
Yeah.
I really think that we should be trying to send so many letters in to ask them about the oral and backdoor situation, because I would be funny to see one of the governing body sit there and clarify this.
We could.
That is murky.
I would love to see the sign language translation of the
announcement. Oh my god. And do they interview a couple uncomfortably on a couch talking about their love life?
Yes, they do the interview across the desk from Steve and Lett, like, we'd like to talk to brother and sister Smith. Now, you were having issues with, let's say, penetration. Is that the case? And, well, yes, brother Lett, that's right. And yeah,
it was just one time there was an oopsie daisy and it was the wrong hole.
Didn't even need to do it. A history of butt stuff.
Exactly. Come on, guys. How do we write enough letters? Like, how do we get that sense? And
we could do it. We could absolutely today on your TikTok make that thing. Post it on the Ex-Jehovah subreddit. We'll start a letter writing campaign. We need butt stuff to be legal again.
Which governing body member is going to be asked to present that one?
They're going to pass that off to a helper for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hermanus von Selm, here. We need you to talk about something. Well, Gary Bro, he knows how to talk about body parts.
Bros, he's ready.
Aren't you glad you had me on your stream?
I am.
Having you here.
This is delightful. We're having a great time. And, XJW, Caleb pointed out that it might be your presence alone that's,
it won't be until we get to 420 that we'll know for sure.
That's the thing.
I think they would give it to Ralph Walls, by the way.
To what?
Ralph Walls.
Ralph Walls.
Oh, yeah. Ralph Walls of Pillowgate fame.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Right. I love it. Okay.
This council found at John 7:24, stop judging by the outward appearance.
That's been in the
As we
Bible
saw
the
in the
whole time.
video,
It's been there the whole time.
grooming styles have changed over time.
Over?
Not all of such changes are bad. To illustrate, none of us would likely choose to dress and groom ourselves as people did in Bible times, nor even as people did a century ago.
It's like Ethan Hunt.
Ethan Hunt's it is. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the style on the right is just kind of
Dapper.
like modern Gen Z hipster style almost. And robes never go out of style.
In fact, most choose to follow the styles that are prevalent now, not those from decades past. Generally speaking, it's not bad or wrong to dress and groom ourselves as people in our community commonly do.
Oh, okay.
As long
Interesting.
as that style does not violate Bible principles.
Which
So-
beards never did, apparently.
Exactly.
I could wear a
Exactly.
hoodie to the meeting. I could wear a hoodie on the stage because it doesn't violate any Bible principles.
Yeah. JW's literally follow fashion trends from decades past. I know. This is what I was thinking. I feel like they're 15 years behind all fashion trends because, like, once something is no longer in style, it's modest by Jehovah's Witness standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, like sisters
that
for
just-
hairstyles. Like the sisters had to deal with that, I think, more than a lot of guys did. Like what was appropriate for cutting or coloring and all that crap. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, what does this mean about skinny suits? What does this mean
Mm.
about skirt length and hair? On
Well, we had
top
like
of the person's head?
everything: makeup, hair, cleavage,
Yeah.
knees,
jewelry.
tightness, this length everywhere, color, distracting, like just
Like, what are they
so
going to
many things.
what are they going to do now to overcome just him reading "Do not judge by the outward appearance"? You can just be like, "That's what Brother Lett said."
This just unlocked a memory for me. I remember years ago, I was at work and I mentioned to someone for the first time that I was a Jehovah's Witness, and he couldn't believe it. He was like, "No way!" And he goes, "But Jehovah's Witnesses, they're those boring people who wear bad suits from the 70s. You can't be one of those."
Well,
They
he
are.
knew what he was talking about.
He
Yeah.
did. He did.
It's devastating.
It's expensive to have so many different suits. You can't have them all perfectly tailored. you know?
No,
So-
no, you gotta have a few.
I just love that that's what he knew about witnesses. Like it wasn't, oh, you're the people who shun your children if they leave. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, you're the people who die over blood transfusions. It's, oh my God, have you seen what they wear?
Those suits are ill-fitting.
I want to say that my favorite suit when I was a lovely single sister who looked with her eyes. My favorite kind of suit was a charcoal gray with a white shirt underneath and a black tie. Nice. Gray
Very
suit.
nice. I love that. I think there might be some stylish JWs coming up here after this. We'll see. This is a great pause face too. I'm just realizing.
Always want to be sure that our appearance reflects cleanliness, modesty, and soundness of mind. Here's another question. How can we promote unity in light of this direction?
I was wondering that.
Well, after viewing this program, some might have to contend with strong feelings.
Well, I think
Big
there
example
was-
of the deep voice there.
Yeah, someone made like a comment. Maybe you highlighted this one already. I think it's popped up a couple times, like single tax jacks or something like that. Talked about the schisms that are now going to pop up of like people who don't want to change. And I've seen comment threads either on Twitter or Reddit or wherever of like people who are already kind of shaking their heads at this, that are the hardliners that don't want beards to come out. So it will be interesting to see this level of judgment and separation that's going to exist for quite some time.
It's going to cause some problems.
And then, yeah, in the comments, I think someone's just asked, how are they going to portray worldly people now in the literature?
Tattoos.
Yeah.
They'll just make them have like dyed hair and
Septum piercing.
Piercings, tattoos,
Yeah.
Yeah.
septum piercings. Yeah.
But that means like how much money are they going to be spending on fake piercings and makeup for tattoos and all of that, like fake tattoos? They're going to be floating
Which
in
are
the tattoo industry.
they're exactly the same things that would apply by the same principles, though. That's what's funny. So
Exactly.
It's almost like you can't really tell what a person's religion or spirituality is by what they randomly decide to wear some days.
yeah.
For example, some might feel as though they've been vindicated, saying, in effect,
I feel that way.
this is what I've been saying for a long time. This proves that I was right all along.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Others might feel disappointed.
That's
saying,
weird.
in effect,
Screw
I
them.
supported the policy about grooming for all those years.
I
Yeah.
supported the policy about grooming.
Yeah, I mean, think about my case. The very first time I was able to grow a beard, I already had gray in it. It was like, come on.
Oh,
Oh no.
I've got like 2 gray mustache hairs that are really starting to. I can't avoid them anymore.
You know, you can blame it on your woman, you know.
That's right.
Stress.
It's the woman you
Stress,
gave
man.
me, Lord.
You might think you were right all along, but the fact that you thought you were right is the problem.
That's
Yeah.
the thing that
Yeah,
was wrong, is
exactly.
you thinking
Yes.
you were right. This just doesn't make any sense. I've got a lot of emotions and feeling. I'm gonna
Let's wrap it up though. We're almost towards the end, and then we can just rant.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Now, I feel let down.
Oh.
But is either reaction
Needs
appropriate?
to be out of context.
Not really. Note what the Apostle Paul was inspired to write at 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse number 10. Now I urge you, brothers, through the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you should all speak in agreement, and that there should be no divisions among you,
No.
but that you may be completely united in the same mind and in the same line of thought. How does that principle apply here?
Doesn't apply to
Well,
me because it says
If
brothers,
we've
not
been
sisters.
promoting our own opinion on this subject, contradicting the guidance from the organization,
He did a
have
wiggle.
we been promoting unity? Have we helped the brotherhood to be completely united in the same line of thought?
Why is he saying
Clearly not.
united?
Any who've done so need to adjust their thinking and attitude.
I do just want to quickly show off one of the most famous hairy people in our house, which is Peach.
Yay!
She wears a beard every day. She knocks my. Hey! Oh, she is. She is. Hey!
There you
Hi,
go.
Peach.
I brought out Benny.
Oh,
She
Benny.
looks really freaked out. Why?
I don't know.
Yay!
Chelsea just woke up. I just woke her up.
Oh.
Oh, we just woke her from a nap. My bad. It's just a couple people mentioned peaches, and I felt the need to.
Absolutely.
We got to give the people what they want on these shows.
There's always room for a peach cameo.
a peach cameo. It's true.
A peachio.
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 All right, we'll get to the last little bit here.
And
Wait,
hello
there's
to your
another
wife.
creature.
On the other
There's
hand,
another
Oh
creature.
yeah. Also, hi Christina.
No. Marino has a dog. I was not saying that.
Oh yeah. Also, the puppy.
This is Benny.
Aw,
Like the puppy.
Floofy.
Sorry. I'm obviously a dog groomer and obsessed with dogs. So thank you for showing me your dog.
Aw, I didn't realize that.
and if we've loyally supported the organization's direction over the years, do we have any scriptural reason to regret our course? Certainly not. Jehovah values our loyal service. He also appreciates our humble willingness
That's
be
Jehovah. He's
obedient
talking about
and
Jehovah.
submissive
Oh, right.
to the
Him.
direction we receive from God's organization. Back in the 1st century CE, some Christians allowed the issue of circumcision to cause division. But the Holy Spirit directed the governing body to resolve that issue.
No, they did not direct the governing body.
I
That's that
am
classic.
a non-believer, but I still find that incredibly offensive. I gotta say,
I do
So,
too. It's
Yeah.
weirdly, I don't know. Like it would be like if the Pope was like the 1st century Pope. You know how that's
Yeah.
just in the Bible. Like, no, it's not.
Mhm. I do have to say I am glad that they sorted out snipping the tip back then, though. So
I agree. I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with that controversy. Imagine if this live stream was about, wow, for the first time in 100 years, Jehovah's Witnesses allowing circumcision.
what are you guys doing that you care?
Similarly, the governing body
The
today
downstairs beard.
is striving to promote unity. We would never want the matter of beards to cause division among us.
Would we now, class?
All of us need to remember that the earthly part of Jehovah's organization is always striving to reflect the heavenly part, to keep up with it, as it were.
How?
I'll show you a heavenly
Remember how
part.
fast the chariot in Ezekiel's vision moved? Like flashes of lightning.
Lightning.
Any who seek to run ahead of that chariot, trying to force change prematurely.
This does not make any goddamn sense. What is this special, amazing plan that God has where he won't allow beards from like the year 1920 through the year 1923? Don't worry about it. That's how it's supposed to be. It doesn't.
So you know how they said that like the anointed are helping to guide the organization from beyond the veil, like from heaven.
Yeah.
Maybe Rutherford and Russell have just been duking it out over this entire time.
Like, okay, so Jehovah is missing. He's passed out, and Russell and Rutherford have just been up there, like grabbing the microphone, going like, "Beards are okay." No, beards are not okay.
That's what it doesn't make sense. Like, well, now with prayerful consideration, it's like, well, what was going on with those previous prayers? Did it just never strike you to pray about it till now?
Mm-hmm.
All
I
right.
think it's interesting as well that they only mention Jehovah at the end to like put a stamp, like a seal of approval on what they are saying.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. They kind
Like
of.
my mom said, it's okay.
Yeah.
Dad said it was fine.
Or who lag behind, hesitating to support changes that have come from the faithful slave, are not keeping pace with Jehovah's organization.
Him. He's talking about himself.
In conclusion, are we not grateful for this balanced direction regarding beards?
Goodwin's been kind of
Jehovah
killing
has
it in chat.
dignified us. He allows each brother
What
the
about
freedom
me? I don't have a
to choose
foreskin.
whether or not
You're just a person without foreskin. Period. That's it.
Period.
Without foreskin and a period.
he will wear
A flow of
a
blood.
beard.
That's right.
We're confident that all of you are determined to keep pace, adjust your views as needed, and continue to serve Jehovah loyally, promoting love and unity among your brothers and sisters. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses,
Oh, it kills me that his pinky
this
never quite makes it on
is
the top.
JW
Yeah.
Broadcasting.
No, that was governing body update. That's a different show.
Oh, pause it.
No, stock
Yep.
images.
I was
Yep.
gonna say,
Oh, wait. I thought I did pause it. My bad. Get back here. I want to see the stock images you used, you sneaky bastards.
Oh, look at that face.
He's so happy.
I tagged a guy I follow on TikTok in a video that had Stephen Lett in it, and the very first comment he made was, "Why does his face do that?"
There was
It's
stuff
like-
from Warner Brothers in there for some reason.
I saw that too. Like, what? They must just own some like stock footage company or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to run through some super chats we got, and then let's kind of summarize here. Thank you. But if anybody has to hop out, I know I've been holding you hostage for quite some time. But Reed says, I can't wait for the talks that'll inevitably need to have about fading styles, beard shapes, and length. Like to talk about pants, but for beards, I think this is true.
Mhm.
They're going to have to figure out the like exact JW parameters of beards. I think that's true. We'll get into that. God forbid we feel vindicated. Thank you, Queen of Flashland. Very true. Skeptics and scoundrels. It's a lovely sentiment. Even if you were right, you were still wrong. Very true. And Israel Craft says, I had an argument about this with an elder before I left. I told him it wasn't in the Bible. I wonder what he thinks after seeing this.
Just going back to Skeptic's comment.
Yeah.
You could also phrase it as, we were right even when we were wrong.
Yeah, they were right.
Yeah.
Even when they were wrong. Like, if the governing body was doing the wrong thing the whole time,
they were right.
You were supposed to follow them because that's what God says you're supposed to do. Didn't you know that? Well, let me get some final thoughts from people. What do we think about...
Oh, Kim, you missed me in the beginning.
I know. Yeah. Scroll back to if anybody joining late, you're going to want to see... Hey, thank you for acknowledging this. I don't like that he said this has been JW Broadcasting when it famously wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was a governing body update. He got it. That's the wrong damn show. Okay, let me go around the horn here. Mitch, what say you about this? What do you foresee the next, I don't know, few months being like, or whatever? What are your thoughts?
So, yeah, I'm fascinated right now in the moment of looking at what JW communities are talking about this. Like, it's fun in the ex-JW communities to hear all the ranting and laughing and stories and everything. But there are these groups and people are just like over the top sharing this news. And there's memes out there about being right. And like, I'm kind of smug. Like, look, I already have my beard going on. And then there's comments all over those posts about, did you guys not watch the end of the broadcast where he said we shouldn't have these feelings at all? Like, if you go on Instagram and search for like JW memes, you will see those comments.
I love
everywhere.
getting into a GZA Genius
Yeah.
comment thread because it's wild.
Yeah.
Although he has blocked me on my apostate account, but
I've gotten blocked several times in the last few days. But one of the craziest things I want to read this is the speculation of why this is happening among JWs. Like, in their mind, why is this important now? Because if we're so close to the end, why is this important now? Oh, Jehovah's preparing us for the end when we're going to have to talk with older people who come back in the resurrection and they already have beards. Or they're preparing us for the great tribulation when they know that brothers won't be able to shave.
Oh my God.
These are legit comments that I've been looking at. So,
damn it. That makes sense. It makes sense. They figured it out.
Here's one comment I'd like to read, though. We need to remember, dearest brother, that following the instructions of the governing body in each specific time, whether we agreed or understood them or not, was more important than being right. So, yeah. It's
I guess I'm not showing much unity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be united on not expressing your feelings.
Whenever I hear unity in the context of Jehovah's Witnesses, I just think of the hive mind from Rick and Morty.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The same thing. Yeah. Just everybody speaks as one communal hive mind.
Yeah. But I do think it's gonna.
That's not really unity.
So
that's not unity. That's uniformity. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, conformity and yeah, that's true. Well, what? I'm sorry, Mitch. Do you have one more thing to say?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, Riley, what are you thinking after all this crazy nonsense we just watched?
Like I said before, I think the cognitive dissonance is just ridiculous. You know, we don't follow men, but we obey the men who are taking the lead. That's just, it's just nonsense. And I think this is the beginning. Well, the annual general meeting, I think, was the beginning of a wave of changes we're going to see, because they realize that they're hemorrhaging members and they're just trying to make it easier to be a Jehovah's Witness so that the religion doesn't die off. That's what I think this is.
Yeah. I agree.
I have
Mickey?
one more comment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry, Mickey, I'm cutting you off.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Mickey.
ask.
I got the man's talking.
My small brain is not going to be able to hold on to what I have to say for much longer.
I just want to put out a question for all of you too. Is what do you guys think of the timing of? Okay, annual meeting made these two big changes to the doctrines and religion in a huge way, but the information about the Great Tribulation, the stuff that would like ease people's feelings about their family members who are disfellowshipped and the anxiety they have that they're not going to make it through the end. But no, they got to throw in this beard thing even before that information comes out to the wider public. I just don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. So yeah,
interesting.
That is a good question.
It's priorities kind of seem funny. So
yeah,
I feel like this will take over some of the talking, right? Like okay, we made that little change over there. It's what a lot of you believed anyway, and now let's talk about beards. Like look over there.
Distractions.
Yeah, that's. Well, I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say. For my wrap up, anyway, was that I really feel like it's a distraction. It's a look over here, like what you said, Marino. Completely look over here while this is happening over here, and we don't want you to pay attention to it. I also think that would have something to do with how they keep losing these cases, and like in Spain, Norway, everywhere, like they don't want people focusing on stuff like that. They want them to be looking on other things. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Matt, what you think?
I mean, I think like what you guys have mentioned so far, it's obvious that we're not reaching the end of the religion per se, but it's the end of how it's ever been. It's going to continue its slow death of 1,000 cuts over the next century, probably, and then it'll just turn into the next Bible student group. It'll just be a small group of people. But from what we've seen about, they are hemorrhaging young brothers like crazy. So any little bit that they can get to kind of keep them in and going, I think this is a definite motivation for it. So that, if we can entice them to stay in any fashion, let's try it. I mean, you've got people who are now available to be appointed as elders at 20, 21, which is just unheard of for, when I was in there. And of course, I'm glad for all the witnesses that are there to have one less aspect of control in their lives, just to be able to live and go. So I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
In congregations that I've been in, I'd probably say 90% of the guys all wanted to have beards, and most of their wives were upset that they couldn't grow beards. And so I'm sure in some of the congregations that I was in, like, they're probably so ecstatic right now. So I'm happy for them that they're able to do that. And then on the flip side, it's also interesting for me is my interactions with some people who are currently serving or currently witnesses, and some who don't know that I'm even out yet. Like, I have a client of mine who doesn't know that I'm not a witness anymore, and would talk about things that happen that they get from their elders' letters. And, I kind of don't tell him, oh yeah, I already know all the stuff that you've got. I'm probably got it before you did, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had like a Zoom call with him like a few months ago, and I've got the beard going. And so he probably just thought I lived in an area where, it must be okay up there now. So now I'm curious, next time I see him, is he going to be having a beard? So it changes. It has some interesting dynamics on my side of the coin now too, of my interactions with them to see how they change. Are they going to call me up now and say, hey, guess what we can do now? Even though they have no idea that I'm not in it. So, in the end, I think it's a great change. I'm happy for the witnesses that are in there, and it's just one more nail in the coffin.
Yeah. So many nails in this coffin, by the way. No, that was really good. Marina,
The coffin is a beard of nails at this point.
a beard of nails.
Sorry, my accent. I literally meant a beard of nails, but a beard of nails works too.
They sounded exactly the same to me.
Why did you say it twice? Sounds like you said the same thing twice in a row.
Beard.
Oh, that sounds weird coming from me. Yeah.
Beer.
Is that what I sound like as an American?
Y'all sound like this to me.
Wow, and no, I risk of like repeating myself a little too much. My biggest focus is that ending part. It's fascinating to me to watch them kind of try to gaslight in real time, and they're so concerned about like that you don't think that you knew better, right? Like you might have been right, but you're wrong, as we said earlier. And don't think that you were right. And those of you that were doing the wrong thing, you were the really faithful ones, right? Like those of you who were supporting the beard policy. And then like the way their video was kind of just cut to be like, oh, God's servants have always had beards. This has just been a weird little blip, and we had good reasons for it. So now we're just fixing it back to how it was, and it's always been like this almost. It's really, 1984-ish, like just kind of just trying to rewrite something in the past and history, and then shaming anyone who thought they knew better.
Do you know what? History of Jehovah's Witnesses and beards being talked at by Stephen Lett was not on my 2023 bingo card.
No. There's a lot of surprises.
We had surprises this year. Yeah.
I have a theory I want to throw out at you guys too. Ever since 2012, 2013, obey even when it doesn't make sense. And a lot of us have speculated, oh no, are they going to bring the Kool-Aid one day and tragedy's going to happen or what? Or is this really what that was about? Like, get ready. We're going to start changing things in a way you guys aren't ready for or comfortable with. And you got to obey even when it doesn't make sense. I feel like this is kind of what it was leading to. But
I'm not one of the ones that think they'll ever do a Flavor Aid moment or whatever that actually was. But I do think it's, as things get tighter and tighter, the first thought I had of when it gets rough, it's going to hit them in the wallet.
Look,
and
Matt,
so they might
have to stay tighter and tighter, and then when it gets rough,
Maybe I'm not speaking properly right now.
I'll talk like Riley.
That's what she said.
We'll just finish that one day.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
As it gets more difficult, my thought was they're going to go for a money grab. And it'll be like a scenario of you don't need to save for retirement. So whatever extra money that you have that you can send us, we need this for the final push for the preaching work. That's where I think the obedient stuff is going to go, of like, well, it doesn't make sense for us to give up all the rest of our money that we need to live. But, knowing how difficult it is getting for those guys as every year passes by, they're just going to keep getting more scared. So I think that just kind of gives them a blank check to do whatever they want.
I think you're exactly right. If I can ramble my own thoughts, that I really liked you mentioning that, like whether or not, like they're not in a situation where they could even pull off some kind of Jonestown-esque event. They've got too many people spread out all over the world. It doesn't make any sense. But even if in 50 years they were able to do something like that, they want that level of control now anyway. They want carte blanche to be able to just say, like, if we say that this is the teaching now, you just have to accept it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it contradicts everything we said before. Doesn't matter if you got counseled for doing this thing yesterday and today we're saying it's fine. The point is, the small paintbrush, sometimes it's not going to make sense, but obey anyway. And that's what's kind of weird about it. I also think it's going to get people thinking. I texted my dad for the first time in a long time after this. I don't know why, but I was just like, I was feeling kind of happy and nostalgic. Like I was like, man, we had so many conversations about this beard thing and it never made any sense. We talked about it, but now it's here. And so I texted him like, I'm really happy for you. I'm happy for all the, Kreitz guys. I wish I could see all your beard stubble. And he never responded. So I think it was bait, and he didn't take it. But I wonder what he makes of all this. It does expose that it's all just kind of arbitrary.
I've been thinking about what I'm going to do the first time I see an elder with a beard around town. Like, I don't like maybe just like a pause and a smile and like, and then like move on. Like I held back from like texting anybody, Friday or whatever, because it's so ridiculous. But yeah.
Well, thank you for everybody joining us. This was so much fun. Thank you to everybody on this panel here. This was so great. And that's it. I didn't plan any kind of outro or anything smart to say. I don't know. Anybody want to plug their shit? Go on. I'll put it in the description. I'll put it in the description later. You can follow all these guys.
Get those letters coming that Mickey asked for.
That's right. Prepare yourself for the oral and anal letter writing campaign. Because apparently that works. That's what gets things done in this organization. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.